top story today is harsh, but the unfortunate truth of this country. It is a story about the divide within India, about how different rules are when it comes to the haves and have-nots, about how money is no bar if you want to have a good time, even if it is at the cost of another person's life. Today's story is about a rich industrialist who took his swanky limousine out for a spin, drove the car recklessly, disregarded all rules, putting not just his, but everyone's life in danger around him. Why? Well, just because he could afford to. In a tragic and shocking incident, two people lost their lives after a Rolls Royce Phantom smashed into an oil tanker on the New Delhi-Mumbai expressway. The incident happened in the new area of Haryana. The limousine was at a breakneck speed and rammed into the tanker. Both vehicles erupted into flames within seconds of the incident, claiming the lives of both the truck driver and the co-driver. The two victims could not get out of the truck in time and were charred to death. What you're seeing on your screens are visuals of the mangled car, which shows how ghastly the head-on collision must have been. The car driver and his co-passengers had a narrow escape but sustained severe burn injuries. As per reports, the limousine was being driven at about 230 kilometers per hour. Mind you, the speed limit on the New Delhi-Mumbai expressway is 120 kilometers per hour. So, of course, not only did the driver display an utter disregard of rules and the law, he clearly did not care about the ramifications his act could have on those around him. Before we tell you who was the man at the wheel, take a look at this report filed by my colleague Priyank from the accident scene.
This is a Rolls Royce Phantom which was being driven at a very high speed, and the CCTV footage also clearly shows that how this accident happened. This is the most expensive vehicle available in India, which comes as a customized vehicle where you have to order. One of the part of this vehicle can also be seen. This is the only part, I would say, which is unburned. This is a part which could not get burned because of the impact. So what had happened, the CCTV footage which we have also managed to access, that this particular Rolls Royce was coming at a very high speed, and when it hit the truck which was taking a U-turn, you can see the axle of and the left wheel of this vehicle got damaged. How it damaged, we are trying to recreate the crime scene. That truck, if you can see, that truck, this truck tanker was also coming like this. It started gradually taking a U-turn. The marks of the truck tire can also be seen there, and this Phantom hit the truck at this location from the front wheel side. Here you can see, Rakesh, my video journalist, will be showing you. So this was the axle of this, the front axle of this truck, which was hit, and the smell of the diesel can still be, I can still smell it. This diesel tanker was filled with diesel, and which was hit by this high speed Rolls Royce. Because of the impact, you can see the tires flew away many meters away from the location. Rakesh will show you that these are the front axle wheel of this particular tire, which was hit by the vehicle. At a very high speed, the vehicle was coming towards, moving towards Mumbai. This is the Delhi-Mumbai expressway, and Times Now is the only channel which is reporting from here. There you can see, there's a cut. Rakesh, if you can just move in. The CCTV footage was captured on that tire, which has captured the sequence. There's a U-turn. So exactly at 40.A, the vehicle started turning toward right-hand direction. The Rolls Royce started moving from the third lane to the first lane, and here the skid marks can also be seen here. When the truck came here, the explosion happened. The truck was actually taking a U-turn. You can see this U-turn, which is here at 41 milestone, which is a milestone which has been placed by the authorities. So this truck driver, there were 3 occupants in the vehicle who was inside the vehicle, and because of the impact, they came forward. So those people, the occupants of the vehicle, came forward. The truck driver died on the spot. There was one more person who also died on the spot, the visual which we have also seen, and the third occupant was very grievously injured. But what happened after that is a very horrific criminal negligence which happened from the part of those escort vehicle people, the security guard of this businessman who's said to be a prominent businessman in the national capital who runs an empire of the tobacco manufacturer. The drivers Here, there were three occupants in the Rolls Royce, a lady and two people who were there. They were taken out and they were taken towards the national capital where they are admitted in the Gurgaon hospital, a very prominent hospital. Later to that, because of the oil spilling on this vehicle, and this vehicle had also caught fire, the explosion started, and which you can see that because of the impact of the fire, this total vehicle has been burned down.
बोल नहीं पा रहा है
ये जब से जी हुआ है ना, जब से ये ऐसे रहता है, मैं पूछते हैं तो ये कहता है कि टक्कर मार दी, बस फिर पता नहीं गुमसुम हो जाए,
सदमा लग गया सर।
पता नहीं है क्या। मैं तो कहता हूँ देखो जिसको जाना है वो तो जाएगा, हमें भी जाना है, ज़मीन पे जो भी आया है जाएगा एक बार, पर लेकिन इतना वो भी नहीं, जो बात है उसको बताओ।
आप लोग को क्या पता चला, कब पता चला, कैसे पता चला?
हमको ये फ़ोन आया था जी, नो भाई सीरियस है, तो हम यहाँ से 4 भाई हैं, हम चारों भाई लड़ गए जब देखा था।
आपको पता चला बहुत महंगी गाड़ी वाले लोग थे?
नहीं जी, हमने ना महंगी देखी गाड़ी, ना जानते।
4.5 करोड़ की एक कार थी, वो उससे ज़्यादा की भी आती है, और उन लोगों ने इनको वहीं छोड़ दिया, जो मालिक था उसको लेके चले गए, इन लोगों को सड़क पे ही छोड़ दिया।
ये तो कौन ले गया कौन नहीं ले गया ये हमको मालूम नहीं।
अभी कोई आया पूछने के लिए, आपसे बात करने?
कोई नहीं,
कंपनी से कोई आया, सरकार के से कोई तरफ आया?
सरकार से कोई तरफ नहीं,
थाने से कोई आया?
थाने से भी कोई नहीं आया। कोई आया होगा तो लड़ में आए होंगे, जो भी आया, और कोई नहीं।
Now to the man who was behind the wheel in the Rolls Royce. He is a businessman and was traveling in a cavalcade of at least a dozen other cars on the highway when the incident happened. He is reportedly the owner of a multi-million-dollar company, and is known to be a car enthusiast and has businesses all over the world. But to take this conversation forward, I'm being joined in by Mr. Sorabjee, editor, Autocar of India. Mr. Sorabjee, appreciate you taking the time out and joining us here on Mirror Now. Let me begin by asking you this. This incident surely implies that the driver has no value for lives, the law, or the ramifications of the same.
Yeah, I mean, this is, happens all the time. Nothing new, really. It's just that the fact that it's a Rolls Royce makes it that much more high profile. We know that India's got the highest number of fatalities. And clearly, it all boils down to one thing or the core thing, which is the driver. Sadly, most road deaths are largely due to driver error, driver ignorance, or just sheer recklessness. And this is, again, a very sad case of this being happening. And clearly, it shows that it has no bounds, that even a Rolls Royce driver, for a car that's not even designed to be driven like this. Rolls Royces are all about going slowly, smoothly, in a more stately, relaxed manner, not supposed to be going at such high speeds and in places where, they shouldn't be speeding at all.
Mr. Sorabjee, as you pointed out, just talking about the speed as well, we are picking up that it was being driven at about 230 kilometers per hour, while the speed limit on the New Delhi-Mumbai expressway is about 120 kilometers per hour. The entire incident speaks volumes about how ghastly the head-on collision must have been, which is reflective in the visuals that we see on our screens as well.
Absolutely. The car must have been going at high speeds. I don't know how they got a figure of 230, but, even if it's 200 plus or 180, 190, just the sheer kinetic energy or force or impact makes it very, very difficult to survive an accident like that, however safe a car is. And the Rolls Royce is a very, very safe car because, it's a heavy car and generally heavier cars are safer cars. But clearly, there's just physics over there that, you can't survive in whatever vehicle you are, that sort of impact and collision at speeds of, around 200 kilometers an hour. So clearly, I think it's, whilst people always try and talk about, crash worthiness and airbags and things like that, it's all pretty much pointless in cases like this, where the root cause and factor really is the driver.
As you point that out, given the status and capabilities of high-end vehicles like the Rolls Royce, in your opinion, does the automobile industry hold any responsibility to emphasize safe driving practices? Is that one way that we can view this as well?
I think it should be the state that should be held responsible. I mean, how can the auto industry be held responsible for this if the state, allows licenses to be given with impunity? I mean, you can't put it on the auto industry. I mean, basically, person who gets a license, the licensing procedure is so lax in general that there are no strict, let's say, tests being conducted. It's so easy to get a driving license. I think that is the root cause of the problem. So to even suggest that the auto industry
Right.
has some responsibility, I think is frankly quite ridiculous.
Mr. Sorabjee, as you of course point that out, in terms of the state being responsible, of course, like you said, there are lapses in terms of anybody being given driving license as well. I just want to get your attention to what really transpired about the incident where, of course, the driver of the car was, let's say, privileged to have people in his convoy to rush to his aid immediately, but then also speaks volumes about how his entitlement claimed 2 innocent lives.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that goes without saying. I think it's happened. This happens all the time. I think more than entitlement idea, I think it's that entitled, rich, influential people typically can afford expensive cars. Expensive cars tend to be fast cars. They tend to be powerful cars, and very often the drivers aren't able to control it. So I think that really is a pattern and a trend we've seen. You don't see Maruti Altos or Wagonars involved in such high-speed impacts because they go much slower, and people who drive them aren't the entitled type. So it's really just it's a function of basically the kind of wealth that people have, and obviously the implications of that vis-a-vis their backgrounds and the way they then can afford these cars and drive them with such impunity.
Just taking a cue from what you did say, that the entitled behavior clearly of some wealthy people often also leads to a lack of accountability of their actions. They may believe that their status of privilege exempts them from facing consequences for their behavior, contributing to a culture of impunity. How do you see that? What is potentially a way that we could probably change this?
Well, I think, it just got to be tougher licensing, tougher enforcement. I think that's what needs to be done. And I think, it's not going to change overnight. I think you've got to start now, and then it'll take a whole generation to change, where you've got to have a really tough licensing test, where people are judged on just the basic of their control, the basic of judgment, and the fact that they are of a certain standard in terms of driving. So I think with really tougher tests, that's the only way the kind of road deaths will come down. Because I always feel that the weakest link in all road fatalities is fundamentally the driver. And it's not necessarily also only people who drive fast cars very fast and expensive cars very fast. Poor driving also filters down to the lower stratas of society. It's just that over there the cars are much slower, so you have a lot more reaction time. You can avoid a potential accident, which again raises the point that it's not necessarily a car with 6 airbags that is a safer car. It's a car sometimes can be which is a slower car, which doesn't have the same performance, which is safer primarily because the driver has enough reaction time and can take avoiding action for an accident. So something like this is just a split second. If he was doing 80, he would have perhaps been able to react much earlier, much quicker, and have taken an avoidance maneuver. But when you're doing something like 200, everything happens in a split second. Your reflexes, you take around, if you're really quick, you'll take around 0.2 seconds to react, otherwise 0.5, 0.6 seconds. And in that time, you've covered, maybe 50, 60 meters. So it's all down to speed and reaction time for the driver. And clearly, they're moving out of what I call a kind of a safety envelope. You always have to have a safety envelope around you, which is fundamentally a margin, a wide margin for anything untoward happening, so you can take an evasive measure. It's all down to defensive driving. which a lot of people practice to survive on Indian roads. But there are cases like this where you just throw every caution to the wind.
Right, Sorabjee. Appreciate you joining us on the show and sharing with us your perspective and also looking at the loopholes and, of course, challenges that are there as well. But for the moment, we leave the conversation at that and we're shifting our focus to the